Last time on the Incorrigible party, Kylia takes the others to the newly discovered Death's Head tree, but not before gathering information on the Veritas activities involving the desolate domain, discovering that rubble is being cleared and makeshift shelters erected for the purpose of housing giant folk. Continuing to the depths below the city, the party remains silent as they discover a severely injured headless giant inside the Death's Head tree, before exploring the extents of more tunnels, finding one that leads directly to Zalmo's office in the castle.
I looked for crap in Zalmo's office, didn't I? Oh, I looked for dirt on him. Dang
Didn't
it.
look hard enough, unfortunately.
Ah!
And the office is empty. Your note, Kylia, that you left when you were here earlier is still on the desk.
Is the door to the office open or shut?
It would be in the state that you had left it as you had shooed away Sasha and had left yourself.
So shut. I will take the chair from the desk and shove it underneath the doorknob to keep it from being opened.
So Opal knows exactly where she is because she's been here, but Helkrug and Rumpke have never been to this room.
Where are we?
What?
Zalmo's office.
Zalmo's office.
No.
Well, this is certainly interesting, isn't it?
Could he be?
You three look around, see if you can find anything in the books. We're gonna break into his desk. See, that's all you gotta do, Leland, is have a mysterious tunnel lead to his office.
I just have to have you take the most roundabout way to get back here. And you'll finally crack open this desk.
All right, yeah. I think I'll just look around.
Yep, I'll look at what books are on the shelves, see if there's any that look like they've been moved frequently, as opposed to others that are dusty.
Okay, well, it does seem that the office is kept very clean, even seemingly in Zalmo's absence. Obviously, Kylia knows that, house chores would certainly fall into the responsibility of one or many of the children, one of many of Zalmo's children here. So there isn't any, layers of dust like you found in the abandoned rooms below, right? Everything up here is kind of fairly immaculate. You can peruse the shelves again. This is, number of you have done this a number of times. Perhaps Helkrug or Rumpke would pull out, the same ledger that Kylia had looked at, when she was talking to Sasha here. And you would find a similar discrepancy isn't the right word, but peculiarity that everything in this ledger is basically the expenses, right? Not the money going in. There's no balance to these ledgers, which obviously is antithetical to the purpose of a financial ledger.
A ledger, yeah.
Kylia, back to the drawer, right? The locked drawer here.
Yep.
And its lock is still marred and slashed from Sasha's attempt with a kitchen knife to get in here. But go ahead and give me a dexterity check here to try to get in.
21.
It only takes you a few seconds with your thief tools. And the wooden drawer kind of quietly creaks and groans as you open it. Inside you see, looks like a collection of newspaper clippings from the Storm's Herald. Several dossier packages full of documents, a thick leather-bound ledger, and a large piece of parchment that seems to be folded several times.
We'll pull everything out and put it on the desk, but I want to open the parchment first.
So unfolding this kind of wadded up parchment, it actually seems like it's 7 different pieces that are kind of bundled together. Each one of them is quite large. They're about 3 feet long by 2 feet wide. They are numbered 1 through 7. And each of them displays what look like pathways. They're essentially just lines drawn on a blank page. There's no other markings except for, the clear transition points at the end of some of these tunnels from page to page. You're obviously able very easily to match up these points, right? With matching up those marks. Again, kind of denoting the order that they're supposed to be laid out with the other pages. And it, becomes clear to you that each of these pages is actually a different level of whatever these pathways are for. Now, you can't tell at some of these transition points if they're meant to represent going up or down, but clearly they're meant some type of change in, as I said, level, right? Vertical movement, right? Some of the pages are nearly like completely full of winding paths. Others have only like a few of these forking paths on them, right? Clearly less, on varying levels, have varying number of what you could presume are tunnels of whatever this is supposed to be a map of.
Do any of them seem to have what would be where the Death Head tree was? The big circle.
It does seem that, yes, one of them does. A very similar looking chamber is really the only one that has a chamber of this size. Now, there's obviously a number of other pages that have kind of larger openings where these tunnels are kind of connected into. But again, nothing as massive as that.
So if she's just sitting looking at it on the table, I'll walk over and just sort of eyeball it a little bit.
Look, that's where the Death Head tree is.
Oh, I sort of put my finger on it and sort of follow the path that we just took. See if it leads to a spiral staircase of some kind or something that indicates that.
So the path that you took to get here, that left-hand turn, is actually not a part of this map. But that right-hand tunnel, you can trace that and see that it continues further in, I mean, you could, again, you're making a lot of assumptions here, but west, if it is the same tunnel, into another like number of branches. Rumpke, give me a history check, please.
0.
You have an inkling suspicion like these are familiar to you in some way, but you have no idea, for the life of you, no clue why they're seemingly familiar to you right now.
These things, man, I'm drawing a blank, but I think I've seen something like this before. What do you say we take them with us?
Oh, Kylia, what do you think about that?
If we take them, Zalmo will know someone was here.
Yeah, and he's got us on contract and everything. Like, we're so screwed.
I'm gonna start looking through some of the other stuff that's there.
Does anything about these 7 pages seem at all familiar to me or no?
To you, no.
I have, I'll put my sphere away.
You finally putting the pin back in it?
Yes. I have like a infusion of replicate magic items. So currently I have a wand of magic detection. I was wondering if I could use a charge of that to find if there's anything magic around, hidden in plain sight.
Good thinking.
So you just basically suspend a charge, and what is there, like a radius that you can detect things?
This wand has 3 charges. When you're holding it, you can expend 1 charge as an action to cast detect magic.
Okay, so I believe it's detect magic lasts for 10 minutes, and essentially you have a number in a radius around you, which if you find anything magical, it kind of glows with its like type of magic resonance, basically.
It is blocked by 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of common metal, thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt, but a magic item within 30 feet of me.
There's only one thing that lights up in this room, and it is on Zalmo's desktop. Basically, it's this wooden desk, obviously much finer craftsmanship than what you found down in the tunnels and the abandoned rooms here. But there appears to be, like, at first glance, it almost looks like a watermark, like a ring mark from like a cup and the condensation that would, leave a marking on the wood. But you can see that it's actually kind of beveled. And under your spell, it begins to glow, and you learn that it's basically putting off like this transmutation magic. If you can actually press down on this ring, and it creates this indentation, and you kind of hear a click, and it's the same click that you heard with the lever at the door. This is just simply, it's just connected to this locking mechanism wirelessly, essentially, right? Via its magical connection. It is how, from within the room, you open up that bookcase.
Well, nothing else is glowing in here except for the opening to the door button thing. Dang it.
Well, that explains why we never saw it.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so we have the kind of dossier, a bunch of dossier packages and a ledger and then newspaper clippings.
Newspaper clippings, please.
What clippings are these?
Okay, they're clearly from the Storm's Herald.
They describe us.
There appear to be more than a dozen articles cut out and sorted in a little stack. And they date back about as far back as the first few issues of the Storm's Herald, which has been reporting the city news for just shy of 100 years. So they date back almost a century. Now, most of the articles are reports of assaults within Stormcape. This includes the reporting on each of the late night Lopper victims being found, and in addition to the Founders Day bombing clippings. The oldest article here from the Storm's Herald's very first issue. It's a lot like the latest Lopper clippings that were published last month, detailing the discovery of a headless body in the Quarlers district. And, as you're kind of leafing through them and kind of skimming some of these articles, one does jump out to you as you recognize a name in an article published 60 years ago or so. And it is a quote from Lehan in an article about the very incident that he had recited for Hellcruck and Rumpke and Happy at the time about what happened on the Cliff's End and about how his friend Leopold Truz got scarred and cut up in this fight with this person from the AEG, the Agricultural Efficiencies Group, wielding this wicked-looking axe, trying to make his way up to the plateau via the Cliff's Run, right, as the guards intersected him. But the quote reads as this, and I'll read it in old Lehan's voice, even though he certainly didn't sound like this 60 years ago. But, some call me a hero, but I won't stop them. I just did what any other carriage driver would if they found themselves surrounded by severed limbs and gore and crying. So much crying. The other assaults kind of depicted in these newspapers, they kind of seem random. No deaths reported, though. Like, they're just like physical altercations. They mostly tout the heroic intervention of the city guard. They're almost like read as if they're like Stormcape City Guard puff pieces, basically. Shouting out their heroics about them being able to prevent an attempted homicide. Many of these incidences occurring just outside of city guild halls, with the alleged targets being guild members at the time. Not all, but some of these articles do have recountings from eyewitnesses mentioning that the attacker was carrying a very strange-looking axe. And outside of the realm of some of these violent assault articles, right, you find more clippings detailing the public activities and protests of the peaceable patriots, including their very first reports of activism from like 35 years ago. And it was about them arranging a sit-in protest at the Smooth as Silk Inn. So that's basically what these clippings consist of. What's next?
I think the only thing that's left is the leather-bound ledger, isn't it?
Yeah, the ledger and a number of like a couple dossier packages to go through.
Ledger.
So the ledger looks very similar to the leather-bound book that Kylia had looked at with Sasha and what the gentleman here had found looking around today. And it is like pages and pages of numbers and figures, again, clearly monetary accountings of the castle's operations. Now, all the notations here are abbreviated other than the names of Zalmo's children. Clearly, like, keeping this is the careful record of earnings that like the kids bring in, and you can kind of see like a breakdown of how and what they're bringing in on a monthly basis. So obviously this is clearly the other side of that equation, that balancing equation for the castle's expenses. You do notice that Sasha appears to be lagging behind a little bit on hitting her quotas in her first couple of weeks at the castle. But among many of these notations that repeat monthly, one stands out as being kind of peculiar, always accompanying a fairly large sum of gold, like hundreds of gold, marked with just capitalized DA/DA. Dada. Marked by Dada. Maybe Zalmo is a Nepo baby after all.
So every month there's a dada with hundreds of gold.
Yes, a very large, especially compared to what the kids bring in, obviously, a very large amount of gold being paid clearly to Zalmo.
Who's being then paid to us.
Yes, which is in the kind of trickle down economics here. Economics. Oh my God. I smell burnt toast here.
Okay.
I was going to say, while they're looking through all the books, I was going to take the map pieces and sort of lay them on the floor and try to study them to see if I can assess with the north, south, east, and west at least where those... Like, if I think that one of the passages, the one that went off to the right, get a sort of an idea of where that might be. Hey, this is under the church, or hey, this is, that I probably won't know, but at least get some kind of an idea based on what's there.
Okay, so these folders each contain an expired patronship contracts for past specialists.
Yellow.
Uh-oh. Past specialists? What happened to the past specialists?
Right. So there are 5 packages here, one of which contains all the information about your contract. So yours is obviously the current contract here, but 4 other ones that have kind of past datings. Now, it appears that all of these dates are occurring within the last 15 years. 2 of them, which is the 2 with the oldest dates on them, were seemingly renewed for a few years after that initial kind of 6-month trial. It does seem like that 6 months trial is fairly standard here.
Standard.
Yeah. So on the first one here, it looks like there's a commencement date of Novella 3rd, 833 MW3. So reminds you, it is the year 848 right now. So this one's signed by Thule Taggart and Exa Longbrom. It looks like it was renewed 6 months after, so from November to May, so in May 3rd, renewed repeatedly in 834, 835, 836, all the way to 838. Finally terminated in Aula 13th of 838 MW3. The reason being listed as KIA, which is, of course, killed in action. So a lost group of specialists here on one of Zalmo's outings. And again, all of what's part of these packages is mission reports, right? So this is one of the thickest, just reams of mission reports that, again, you're seeing the patterns here in the contract from contract to contract. Obviously, slight detail is going to be differing in what the person signing it is asking for in return, in addition to what Zalmo is expecting, right? You see one from with the commencement date of Janla 29th in 839 MW3, so only a few months after the previous one was terminated. This was signed by a single person, Ripjaw McGraw. Was also renewed into 840 MW3, terminated that same year, again, KIA reasoning. A third contract, commencement date of Mela of 840 MW3. So you're seeing, it doesn't seem like it's taken very long for Zalmo to find another group of people to sign up to do his bidding, essentially, right? You're seeing only a few months of gaps between and termination via death, and then a new contract being signed by somebody else to be his specialist. So this one, signed in 843, was signed by Brick Foresheep, and it was terminated at the end of a 6-month trial period in Novella 17th of 840 MW3. The reason was that the signing party simply wished to part ways after that 6 months trial period.
There's hope.
What was the?
We're not gonna die.
What were the tasks assigned to Brick?
Sure. Okay. So number of the details. There's only 2 of them here because he was only operating for about 6 months, and you do see that his dealings were with the Trinity. Very similar outings to what your first task was, going into the Denizen and trying to oust some of these Trinity members. It seems that Brick was tasked and was successful on 2 occasions with something very similar.
Same Brick that we know?
So that was 5 years ago?
This was more like 8 years ago, so in 840.
When did Hellcruck get released from prison?
15 years ago. So around the same time of the first specialist contract here.
Yeah, I was just wondering if his job was to go in and kill your friend.
So then the fourth and final contract here was signed in Junala 1st of 842 MW3, and again is the most recent outside of yours, signed by Lillian Smosh and terminated in Sela 1st 842 MW3. The reason terminated with extreme prejudice due to contract violation.
Okay, we need to know more about this. What was this person tasked with?
So it seems that Lillian Smosh was tasked with, and Kylia Sasha, like you recognize the name Lillian right away. This is the name that Sasha told you that this was her mother's name, right? And Lillian specifically was basically handing some type of like merchandise handoffs at the ports. Seems like mundane items. As you're quickly reading through some of these reports, like shipments of incoming tools and building supplies. Kylia reading Knowing Thieves Can't. This is where you find notes written by Lillian in Thieves Can't. So you're really the only one able to read them, but she's clearly submitting these Thieves Can't reports to Zalmo. So presumably that would mean Zalmo either has some way of deciphering it or can read Thieves Can't himself. But it does seem, though, as like all these past specialists, they're either intentionally keeping things vague in their reports, or they were just incapable of properly detailing their actions. Like you get insight into what they were doing and what types of activities they were doing, but there's others that seem to be written in also some form of shorthand. Again, in another way that's very clear to obscure details expressed in the writings, but knowing what the shorthand reads as would make more sense to somebody that has the cipher to this kind of code almost. Rumpke, you've been spending a few minutes here laying out the maps. Now, but you've taken this time now looking over these things, and it kind of suddenly dawns on you as you're putting them together and you're kind of tracing routes. Like you've seen similar looking maps like this before. These reminds you of the mappings of the stoneworks, the tunnels that make up the numerous tunnels that, again, kind of spider web underneath the city of the stoneworks as they're digging through and collecting resources to either export or use for building within the city. Like something almost had like a flash of like seeing something similar up on maybe one of like Seth's boards in his study, right, kind of thing. You're convinced that is what this is. This is how old it was, or how what date it was drafted. Which there might be, like you've already noticed, Zalmo's access tunnel not being on here. There could be other tunnels that aren't a part of this map. Again, depending on when they were drawn, but. There's no marks for scale here. There's like no distinguishing marks to figure out how far they reach. But if you kind of look at where you think the Death's Head Tree chamber is versus the very other far end of it, taking into consideration some level changes, like you can approximately say, okay, I think this is where the stoneworks is. I think this is where the shafts start. And then can from there make some rough estimation of like where other parts of the city would be in relation to some of these levels.
Hey, I know what this is. This is the Mason map, the stoneworks. Yeah, this sort of lays out where they dig up all the stuff for the. Yeah, this is. I can't really tell how old it is, but is this kind of map? I think I could find somewhere like a record of it at the Masons Guild.
Oh yeah, absolutely. At the guild hall for the Masons Assembly, they would definitely have records and probably past drawings of, older drawings of the system too, and you would be able to look at them from like decade to decade and see how much they've changed and grown. Absolutely, there would be a recounting of all of that at the guild hall.
Yeah, if we don't want to take this with us, I think I can get a copy of this or something close to it. I have to pull some strings and ask some friends, but we might be able to buy something like this. It might help us get around.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm not really a big fan of taking anything from Zalmo's office. I'd like to leave it the way we found it and hope that he doesn't know that anyone's been in here.
Too many specialists have died, but yeah, it makes sense why you would know it, but you probably can't get into the Mason's Hall yourself, right?
No, but like I said, a little bit of coin. Talk to a few
Right.
people. Might be able to pick something up.
Hmm.
But this is the only... I point at the Deadhead Tree area. This is the only place it looks like there might be a tree. But there might be lots of different ways in here. So see Zalmo's little tunnel there. It's not on the map, so he must have got a hold of this and then maybe made his own way down. Connected in somehow.
Do we go back and see where the rest of the tunnel leads, or what do you guys want to do?
What's on the map?
I mean, like, get out of here another way, or do you want to just try to waltz out of here?
We could be walking a long way if we're following all these tunnels into the city, but
At least we have a map, but you didn't want to take the map, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, we might run into people mining and stuff. I don't think we need to go back down there unless unless we think there's another tree.
Okay, so how are we getting home?
What do we do about the tree?
Right.
we should try and destroy it, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, looks like there's a giant in there. Don't want that thing running around. Looks like another bread beetle.
Okay, so we go down and fight?
Yeah, can we... let's try and put this stuff back where we found it, and hopefully Zalmo will be none the wiser.
I mean, I'm leaning towards just chucking something in there and burning the thing up.
Oh no, Zalmo's got a lot of nice things in here.
Not just Zalmo stuff. I was sort of talking about the tree.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, the tree.
Yeah, I picked the map pieces back up and put them back on the desk.
Kylia will put everything back in the drawer, best the way that she can remember it was there, and lock it.
So back down to the tree.
We can go back down the way we came, or how do we want to take this tree out?
We would not be seen if we went back the way we came.
Yeah, but are we ready to take on this tree, or we want to get something to sort of just burn it?
Yeah, if we're going with burning, I can just keep whipping firebolts at it from a distance.
I do think the smartest thing is to stay out of its reach. Those branches could be pretty damaging if they swing at us.
And the giant better not come at us.
We probably should attack that first.
How far away was the radius of the branches?
So the canopy has a diameter of about 100 feet or so.
But the tree is 20 feet, so it's only like from standing on the edge to the tree center is only like what?
45, 50 feet.
All right, well, best that nobody sees us here, so hit the button.
Put the chair back.
Yes, okay. Good idea. Okay, so you've put everything back to approximately how you think you found it, and you want to go basically back down the way you came to that chamber. What are you positioning yourselves outside of the mouth of that southmost tunnel, and then going to be lobbing things at it here, or what's the first attack that's happening?
Well, do you guys want to go to the north side of it? Because that's the way we're going to want to get out of here.
But the giant's on the south side.
That's true.
And we can get out this way.
We can, if we have to, yeah.
I say we all attack at the same time, and I don't know that I want to waste my blizzard thing.
Really the only ranged attack that I have is a range of 30 feet, so that's not great.
How crack you grab us if we go down?
I just keep casting firebolt every 6 seconds. Because it's 120 feet, so I got you.
Okay, so Opal, you want to position yourself about as far away as you can because you have the range, as you say.
Might as well.
Okay, so now keep in mind, your dark vision is out to 60 feet. If you're attacking something past 60 feet, you are attacking it with disadvantage because you cannot see it.
Alright, then I'll get where I can see it.
Assuming you don't just want to kind of point your firebolt into the canopy. Like if you want to focus on where the giant is inside or the trunk, then you still need to be within your dark vision.
I'll go to
limit,
60
right?
feet then, and then if we have to run, I'll just fling at the canopy. But
I suppose I could attack the canopy then. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, so the canopy hangs about 20 feet over the floor.
Okay.
So what are the first attacks here? What's happening? So Opal's going to firebolt.
I'm a Sacred Flame.
I'm gonna Thorn Whip.
My first attack's gonna have to be with a longbow and an arrow. Covered in oil instead of flame. Because it works in the movies, so why can't it work in D&D?
So Kylia, you wish to light an arrow. Wrapping a oil soaked cloth around the head of it, lighting on fire, and then whip.
Yeah. Into the giant. Hopefully.
Before we do anything, I would like to use one of my skills called Divine Sense to detect good and evil. And I will know if there's any celestial fiends undead within 60 feet of us.
Okay, that is not blocked by total cover, correct?
It says, that is not blocked
That
behind
is
total
sus.
cover.
There's a
Very
sus comment from the
specific question,
DM.
Leland.
Well, considering that I do not like that caveat to the Divine Sense, I'm going to ignore it. So as you spread your senses out here, and you just hit the extent of this tree with that 60 feet, right? And this is kind of another like paladin ability, right? You feel the warmth in your tattoo and your holy symbol around your
Say
neck.
plums.
Well, that's you. That's where Rumpke gets his power.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You detect fiends within the tree.
I go, hold on a second. There's something in the tree.
Yeah, giant.
With this sense, do I know what it is? I mean, do I visually see what these things are in my head, or how would you say that manifest?
You detect 5 fiends within this tree. You're getting the sense, like, you don't know what type of fiend they are immediately. It's just like you're almost like sensing an aura of a creature, right? These auras seem very small. 4 of them seem very small. The 5th is a little larger.
And it says I know their location, so can I sort of look up into the trees and sort of get an indication of, like, see something move or something like that?
Yes, so you see, like, basically where the lowest limb hits and kind of above this gash. Clearly, like, up this trunk, they're inside the tree. And, like, kind of peering at it, even in with your dark vision, you can see, like, there's small, like, little holes in the trunk.
I go, come here. And I'll sort of point in the area. I go, there's something in the tree. There's like 5 little things up there. Look, see the holes? They're moving around.
I mean, like, something hostile, maybe, or evil?
Definitely evil.
Attack those first, then?
Aim for their little heads.
Yeah, I can do that.
Which little heads? There's a lot of heads out there.
Not the ones that aren't moving.
No, like the holes, yeah.
Okay, so we're still going to do the volley. We're not going to do this kind of one and then see what happens, and then we just want to do as much damage as quickly as possible, right?
I think so, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Go out with a bang.
All right, so we have Opal's Firebolt. We have Kylia's Lit Arrow. We have Rumpke's Sacred Flame, and we have Hellcrux Water Whip?
Thorn Whip.
Thorn Whip. Let's see. So that's going to be some 2 hits. So everybody that needs to roll to hit, go ahead and do so.
16 for my firebolt.
That hits. Your AC is 11.
21.
14.
Okay, so all those are hit. So I believe Sacred Flame is a dexterity saving throw, right?
Yep, dexterity save.
All right, the tree gets a 2.
Oh, I don't even have to look that up.
Everybody go ahead and roll me your damage. Don't forget to add your 5th level bump to any cantrip damage.
9.
6 piercing damage for Thorn Whip.
I did 6 piercing and 3 bludgeoning with my arrow because of Seishadal.
5 radiant.
I rolled 2d10 for 10, but then I was just reading my Alchemical Savant, using my supplies as my focus, plus 4 if it's fire is one of the things, so 14.
Okay, very good. So all of your hits almost impacting simultaneously. As they make contact with the tree, right, you see the firebolt hit into the bark, and it's almost like the equivalent of like an open wound splitting. Kylie, your arrow thump into the trunk. You're aiming for the giant, right? So it kind of sticks into the sap that's he's encased in, and kind of it's almost like its momentum is like immediately slowed down. So you still do your damage, but you see the saps kind of engulfs your flamed arrow. There's no wood where you've targeted for it to catch, unfortunately. Piercing damage, raking the barren leaves with your whip, Hellcrux, and Rumpke, your radiant damage, again kind of leaving its own like burn mark on the bark of the tree, and immediately the hanging heads, their jaws start to chitter and moans as the tree begins to sway. And you see out of that little hole in the bark, you see 4 little rodents scurry out, these tiny creatures, big bushy tails, kind of long dark claws on their forepaws. They look immediately like squirrels, but you see they all immediately they go to like where Opal, your firebolt hit, and they scramble to where it's left a wound, and they start like tapping down any like cinders, and all of where you've impacted it, you can see from the damage you've done, almost like seeping up through the bark itself. It's more of that sap stuff starts to like coat that damaged area. The wounds of this tree begin to slowly knit close, but the squirrels are tapping out any cinders, and one of them looks at you. And so the squirrel, like they have the normal like kind of big beady eyes that almost like sit on the either side of their head, right? But up their forehead and kind of in between those normal eyes are 4 more black slitted eyes, and they all kind of blink at each of you in the dark. They can clearly see very well in the dark here. One of them looks up.
Which one of you idiots did that? What are you doing? You woke up the heads. We'll never get them back to sleep now.
We were
You-
trying to
you idiots!
kill the tree. What? The tree needs to die.
No, this is our home. What kind of pipsqueak's talking over there?
Find a new home. This is an abomination.
What about the giant in it?
Boom. Has it been 6 seconds?
He's never home.
Are you not stopping, Opal? Are you immediately throwing another one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead and roll me another attack. Anybody that wants to continue can also do it. Now, you're aiming for the tree or one of these squirrels?
The trunk again. 30 damage. 30 fire.
Very good hit. And you hear all of these squirrel-like creatures that start to squealing.
I love squirrels. I'm so sorry.
No. And the one that's speaking to you is,
Stop that. You're gonna make Mama mad. You won't like Mama when she's mad. Quit it.
What do you mean the giant's never home? He's right there in the tree.
Quit it. You look at you all. You're all ugly. Look at you with only 2 eyes. Disgusting.
and the other 3 squirrels like burst out laughing.
Sacred flame on the one that's talking. Yeah, I know these are evil, right?
They are fiends. Yeah, you've detected them as fiends. These are clearly what you...
Okay. All right. I don't care how nice their voice sounds. They're gonna die.
I don't care how many eyes you have.
I'm casting Thorn Whip again. It's another 14 to hit with 4/7 damage this time.
Yeah, I need dex save from you. Squirrels should have a pretty good dex.
You'd think.
Squirrel gets a 19.
Yeah, that saves.
It probably like dodges, but then dodges back into the line of fire, I would guess.
Yeah, they're so fast.
Classic squirrel.
As you continue to launch attacks at this tree, despite these creatures' protests, you can see the branches on the tree begin to shake again. You can hear like the creaking of wood and the tearing of bark as from that hole just kind of explodes open, and another humanoid size, like medium-sized creature, one of these squirids is what these things are called, bursts out, kind of flying out of the tree, kind of landing at its base.
You've made Mama mad.
And then we can now roll initiative officially.
0.
Wait, what? That.
Wow.
Oh, I guess.
Wow.
4 minus 4.
Well, we can probably stick with 0, I think.
21.
I rolled 20.
13 for Hellcrux.
So, Mama's coming right at us, right?
Mama has emerged from this tree, and Mama is like the size of a medium creature. It's like an oversized squirrel looking, like snarling mouth, almost like it's a little elongated, a little longer than what you would think like a squirrel would have. But it has snagged up like a discarded strip of wood, almost like it's using it as a staff now, and it's just like growling at you. Kylia, however, is first in initiative.
It's running at us, or is just standing there snarling?
Well, it has just emerged from the tree. It unfortunately has not had a chance to act, but it does look like it has some nefarious intent. To remind you, you're all outside of the canopy currently, but the tree, right, has, ever since you've hit it, almost like the whole tree, like swaths of its canopy is just moving and like reaching and riling and reeling, and it looks like there's about 8 main, like large branches that kind of protrude off of this trunk. Like if the tree were to have appendages, it would like it has 8 main appendages.
Octo tree.
And you've all, fought Deathhead's tree before. Like, that those branches, if they get their chance, will want to wrap you up and pull you towards all the biting and snapping heads amidst the leafless canopy.
Do we recall, do we get the impression, or do we recall if these branches, like, we positioned ourselves to be outside of the range of the canopy, but can they extend further out, do you think? Are they kind of like a coiled snake that can strike, or do we feel like we're probably safe where we are from the branches?
I think from the branches themselves, maintaining outside of that 100-foot diameter, or that 50-foot radius, from coming from the very center of the tree, that you would be safe from its branches. Yes.
We're going to attempt an arrow into Mama as we're yelling, "How long have you been here?" I mean, torture's the best way to get information, right?
You can have a back and forth during combat. Just because it's not done very often doesn't mean we can't pioneer that.
So 24 hit it?
24 hits Mama, yeah.
12 points of damage.
Your arrow sticks into the Mama and just begins to snarl. Get away from Elder Tree!
Oh dear.
Would you like to move anyway?
No, I don't think I would. No. Can I telekinetically shove one of the dead heads that are on the ground?
Yeah, right? Just uses a bonus action, right?
Yeah, and fling it at one of the other squirrel thingies?
Oh, well, your shove specifically says it moves or pulls something 5 feet, correct?
Hey, just do it every round. It'll slowly make its way.
Yeah, 5 feet.
That's more ominous.
Well, it'll make its way on the ground.
Has to be a creature.
Well, as we ruled before dealing with Benito's headless body and his head, the corpse remained the creature, but the head itself was classified as an object. So, unfortunately, the precedent has been set.
I distinctly recall that, yes.
Can I telekinetically try and telekinetically shove Mama as the arrow hits her to make it seem like it's doing more damage than it did?
Sure, but what's the range on your shove?
30 feet.
Okay, well, you have to get much closer than right? You have to get a little closer or much closer?
5 foot closer.
Okay, so that's still outside of the canopy. Yeah, so you take okay, so as you're drawing, you're leaping forward 5 feet, letting loose an arrow, attempting to mentally shove Mama. So they make a strength?
Yep.
19.
Oh, that saves.
Clearly, Mama can't register whether or not the impact of the arrow or the attempted shove, like what's going on. It's just like you've successfully at least made it feel like one impact rather than two kind of effects here. Assuming you are not continuing your movement anywhere, we will move to initiative count 20, where the Death's Head tree, before Opal gets to go, will make a lair action.
Don't like that. Don't like that at all.
The ground beneath each of you begins to tremble and shake. The hard-packed soil, again, remember it had just been like hard-packed over time, basically. But it begins to loosen as it vibrates, and your feet start to sink in as if it's quicksand. Could each of you give me a dexterity saving throw, please? DC is only 10. This will avoid being restrained.
11.
19.
Nat 1 for 7.
Would be a 17.
Hellcruck, you're like sunk down up to your ankles, and you are currently restrained, but as the ground continues to tremble, basically like right behind you, like at each of your backs, twisted tree roots pierce the loosened soil, forming behind each of you a wall of roots like 15 wide by 10 feet tall, and the roots begin to attempt to pull each of you towards the trunk of the tree. So you can all make me another dexterity saving throw. So Hellcruck, because you are restrained, you do have disadvantage on this dexterity save.
With disadvantage, that's a 10.
15.
The face from Leland tells it all.
It's a DC 10. You didn't. I got 11.
And Hellcruck was swallowed by the ground.
-1.
So this DC is a little tougher, yes.
Oh no.
Well, I was thinking it would be challenging playing a monk that mostly has like melee combat against this tree, but that's more or less been solved now.
So as 3 of the 4 of you fail your saves, you're each pulled 30 feet well with under this canopy. Now this wall, basically you now have a 15 wide wall of roots behind each of you at your back. Hellcruck, you are no longer restrained as the movement has broken your restraint, but you are well within the canopy as Rumpke, you're pulled right up to snarling Mama. Hellcruck get pulled close enough to the very foot of the trunk. Opal within 15 feet now of the lowest hanging squirrel up in the tree, and that is its layer action. So Opal, you are up now.
So in your description just now, these squirrels in front of me, they're up. They're vertical.
Yeah. So the lowest branch from the trunk is 20 feet above the ground.
Ugh. That changes the range on my spells. Dang it.
And you just see, like, as you've all been pulled, the squirrels are just like perched and watching. They kind of like spread out a little bit, and they just burst into laughing as 3 of you are pulled by these tree branches.
So on my turn, can I make a check to get out of these branches?
So you're not restrained or grappled. It has simply pulled you to itself, basically. And now these root walls they persist, and they're just obstructions now around the base of this tree.
Are 2 of the squirrels above me within 5 feet of each other? The way that they kind of look on the map.
Yeah, on the map it's not as accurate, but they have spread out across the tree. They're not within 5 feet.
So they are not within 5 feet of each other.
Of each other. They're minimum 10 feet from apart.
Can I target the tree as the second creature if I target the first squirrel above me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll cast Acid Splash, so it's a dexterity saving throw. DC 15. So I'll target the first squirrel and the tree branch it's on, I guess.
Okay, first squirrel gets a 21.
Yeah, I figured they were dexterous, but...
The tree itself, with a -5 to its dex, gets a 15.
Oh, come on. Yeah, so nothing happens. My acid's like, psh, nothing.
Okay, do you wish to
Yes.
move?
Yes. Is it difficult terrain to move through these roots?
The root walls themselves are impassable. They're a solid object. They will also potentially provide you cover, right? From depending on the point of view of the creature. But you have to move around them now.
Okay, so in my 25 feet, I can move down and around to be behind this wall,
So you're just circling this root wall then?
essentially, because I can't get out of the canopy anyway. So
Well done. Next is Mama. Well, now that Kylia is the only one outside of the foliage, avoiding the roots. Kylia, you basically sidestepped this sweeping of the roots, and not having caught something, it has stopped like right in front of you now, essentially just putting the root wall between you and the tree now. So you have total cover right now from all of the enemy creatures because you're outside of the canopy. So Mama can't really do anything to you, unfortunately. But you see Mama like snarling still, holds up its staff and like spins it around its head and slams it down into the soil. Looks like it's mostly for show, but it will use a bonus action to wild shape. And you see like the fur almost like starts to melt off of it, and its big, long, bushy tail elongates and begins to grow scales as it swells inside. Its front legs kind of start to furl out as they grow wings, and it wild shapes into a large dragon. Looks like a wyvern, a gloom stalker creature. And it's now down on all fours. Its wings tucked, it's got like an elbow bend of wing now kind of tucked next to its body in this kind of enclosed space. Now it is swelled up to a huge sized creature as it is
toothless.
Morphed and grown. It's kind of toothless looking, actually. You're absolutely right.
We need to train him.
With his action, you can try. It will try to bite and claw you, Rumpke. So bite is 27.
Barely.
Claw is a critical hit.
Just barely makes it through your plate mail.
We might have to run. This is stupid.
So the bite is 11 piercing, and the claw, being a crit, will be a fold and roll. Will be 18 slashing.
Hey, I'm under my bloody condition.
There, I was gonna say, any of your items started to work? Yeah.
Yeah, everything just started to work.
Things are really clicking into place.
Okay, so you were bloodied. So now, what items do you have that trigger off of bloodied? Your belt, right?
The belt is the main one that I'll be. And then let me look at the resistor.
Well, as you're looking at the resistor, your belt, everyone sees the it's like a weight, like title belt around Rumpke's waist, right? And it immediately upon being the claws raking across Rumpke, the shapes on it, right? That has shapes along its belt in the front. They begin to light up and glow, the outline of these shapes. And because you have 4 levels of exhaustion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see like 4 different shapes just kind of spreading up from the center of it, and you should now be adding a D12 to your damage. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So
Wow.
this belt now enhancing your physical strikes. What about the resistor?
The resistor, I have to use a bonus action to be resistant to one type. While bloodied, the creature may use their bonus action to gain resistance to an additional damage types of their choice. Acid, bludgeoning, cold, blah, 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 blah. They gain 1 level of exhaustion for each damage resistance they gain. So,
that's
if I'm wearing
great for you.
the ambulance and get the bloody condition, I gain resistance to one of them without any penalty. But I can also add others as a bonus action. Is the way I'm reading it, right?
So yes, on your turn, you can bonus actions to inflict with further levels of exhaustion to gain additional resistances, but you are already exhausted. You have become bloodied. You are attuned to it. You are wearing it. You now gain, because you were exhausted before bloody, you gain immunity instead of resistance to the chosen damage type when gaining the bloody condition. So you can choose now, on triggering bloody, 1 damage type to then gain immunity because you were already exhausted.
Well, it's going to have to be bludgeoning, I would assume, as they're going to...
Well, this creature just did piercing and slashing to you.
Oh, yeah, but the tree... okay, piercing and slashing. What did it hit me for 18 with? The claws?
Yeah, but that was a critical hit. I'll tell you that the bite is dealing d8s in damage, and the slash is only dealing in d6s. I will at least give you that benefit. If that changes.
All right, then I guess you've convinced me. Piercing.
What a benevolent DM we have.
But that is immunity to piercing.
You have immunity to piercing damage.
So
right now.
that's
Yep.
just 0 damage?
That is 0 damage.
That's wild.
Only for piercing.
And then obviously, if you want further resistances, you will have to use your bonus action to incur level of exhaustion to gain another resistance. If
I
that
could
is
get
what
one
you
more
so choose.
resistance and also do a d20 on my damage roll.
Yes, with a -5 penalty to all of your attack rolls.
How could that be bad?
Who's counting? Okay. That is Mama. Next are the squirids. and they all like still like chittering. One of them looks at you, Hellcruck.
Hey, try some mouthwash once in a while, buddy. I can smell your breath from here.
Another's like looking at Rumpke.
You fight like 10 pounds of shit stuffed into a 5-pound bag.
And at Opal.
You must have lost a bet of some kind. Why else would you cut your hair and make yourself look like a walking, talking Q-tip?
And then to Kylia.
Oh, look at little baby with her bow. So scary.
Each of them is casting Vicious Mockery.
These bards?
You can all make me a wisdom saving throw, please.
Hellcruck, pull your frickin' life together.
I believe I have disadvantage on all wisdom saving throws, right?
You do, Rumkey. Yes, you do have disadvantage on wisdom saving throw. The DC is only 11.
Oh, great.
Oh, no, I got a 10.
Hellcruck got a 3.
Opal got a 16.
Does this have anything to do with being charmed?
With disadvantage and -4, I got a 6. Easy.
I have advantage on wisdom against magic. Hold on 1 second. I still passed, right?
Yeah, you do still pass. All right, so Opal like brushing off these insults like crazy.
Because I know it don't look like a Q-tip. Hello.
Kylia takes 3 psychic damage. Rumpke takes 1 psychic damage.
Oh, shoo.
Hellcruck, you only take 1 psychic damage, but now each of you have disadvantage on your next attack roll because of the mockery and its viciousness.
God.
Hellcruck, you are up.
Okay, so these squirrels are still about 20 feet up? It's like not within melee range, basically.
No, definitely not. You are, I mean, now because Mama has grown in size as they've druid shaped, you're within melee of, you're currently engaged with Mama.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna attack Mama then, with a melee attack. So Fury of Blows, and it's disadvantage, right?
The first one, only the first one.
Oh boy, of course I rolled good. Let's see what the next one is. Oh, could be worse. A 15 to hit.
That is your AC target in the wild shape form.
So that is 8 bludgeoning damage.
Okay, very good. Are you expending a key point to do an additional flurry attack with your bonus action?
I will, yes.
Okay. But you've hit now, right?
Yeah, and so I'm going to use my open hand technique. So whenever I flurry of blows, I can pose one of the following. So I am going to try to cause it to fall prone. So it's a dex throw for DC 12.
Ooh, even with the good dex, that is only 11.
Beautiful. Okay.
So this thing's already on all fours, but it like slumps as you connect with it, right? Inflicting the prone condition. It's almost like its legs kind of like splay out, and it is currently prone, which does mean melee or attacks within 5 feet of it have advantage.
So I'll make an unarmed strike. This will be just my main action. And that'll be a hit. 13 plus 6, 19. Max damage, 9 bludgeoning damage. I had advantage. Let me roll again. No, not a nat 20. And that was a nat 20. Okay, my next attack is a nat 20. So 6 plus 3 is 9, plus another 6 bludgeoning damage. So 15 bludgeoning damage.
I will say with your first 3 hits, you have bloodied this creature.
Nice.
Does it have any magical items?
Yeah, you see it's wearing a cool belt around its waist.
Yeah, what?
Crap. Okay, final attack.
In fact, the tree, the squirrel, everyone's wearing a cool looking belt.
They've got circlets glowing on their heads.
Oh, goodness. Well, it's a good thing I guess it doesn't really matter, but rolled a nat 1 and a 3, so 9 to hit.
Okay, that's not going to do it.
If a creature is prone, when I move out of their, disengage from them without disengaging, I guess, do I incur an opportunity attack or no?
Yeah, you will, but their attack will have disadvantage because they're prone.
I'll stay engaged with them.
Okay, very well done. Next is the tree itself. Those main limbs now will start to lash out at anybody within reach of it, which is Opal, Hellcruck, and Rumpkin. Opal, you're trying to slam you with a branch. 26 to hit.
Double my AC.
You only take, you take 9 bludgeoning, and can you make me a strength saving throw, please?
That's a 1 plus 0.
Okay, as this branch slams down you, it wraps you up, lifting you up off of the ground 20 feet.
Perfect.
You are grappled by this branch. Next, Helkrug. Boy, oh boy, 22 to hit.
Just barely.
You take 6 bludgeoning, and you can also make me a strength saving throw, please.
Helkrug's finally pulled himself around. Another nat 20.
Nice.
Excellent.
Don't change
Excellent.
dice.
So it whaps you, but you're able to maneuver yourself as it clearly tries to wrap you as well, but you avoid that. Only a 14 against Rumpke.
I made it.
But Opal, up now, suspended in the canopy, wrapped up with this branch, it just pulls you closer to the closest gnawing and gnashing head, which will attempt to take a bite out of you. That is a 21 to hit. 3 necrotic damage. And finally, Rumpke.
Okay. So since the Mama is prone, I have disadvantage, but since he's prone, I have advantage, so it washes out, right? So I don't have the bad thing going on there. So I only have my negative hits to bother me. But what I'm going to try to do is use my special action Haymaker. When you take the action on your turn, you cause all your attacks that land to deal maximum damage, adding the brawling die. So I'm going to expend a brawling die. So I'm going to try to take that attack and punch the thing right in the skull.
Pow, right in the kisser.
Ah, look at that, a crit! Oh,
Dang.
this is awesome.
Wow.
So follow me on this, because I've been thinking about this for a little while. I'm also
Dreaming
going
of it.
to, while I'm doing this, before we do the damage, I'm going to use Divine Smite. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can expend one of your spell slots to deal 2d8 extra radiant damage.
Before you start to roll anything, the ability you just enacted means you deal max damage, correct?
Yes.
Therefore, this is not a full and roll. This is a full and full because
Full
you've
and
crit. So you don't need to roll anything. You are simply counting up your dice and taking a total, right?
Yep, and this is for all attacks for the Haymaker, but for this first attack,
So 2d8 is your smite, plus 1d8 is your normal hit, right?
yes, 1d8 plus 5. It's my normal
Yeah.
damage.
Okay, well, the plus 5 we'll disregard for now, but so that's 3d8, and then your it has your brawling die as well, right? What size is that?
A d8
Okay, so that's 4d8
and a d12.
plus the d12 because of your belt.
Yep.
Okay, so that is 44. 44 times 2 because you've crit, so 88. Now plus 5 because you're a modifier, right?
That's insane.
Plus
So-
I was like,
so that
it's
is-
a little bit
Yes.
more.
93 damage.
Why couldn't you target the bread metal?
I've got this written down as high damage attack, and I wasn't expecting to get a crit, but
Holy crap. No wonder Rumpke killed that guy in the ring the other.
So, on your first attack, Mama's Gloomstalker hit point total is 45. Mama's pre-Gloomstalker hit point total is 32. If my math is correct, once again, that is far less than 93. So as you uppercut this dragon wyvern-like being in the mouth, its head whips back, like it lifting his body off the air. In midair, it transforms back into the humanoid squirrel, still flying back, and it slams against the trunk of the tree, collapsing at the base of it. I assume you're going for the kill here.
yes, oh yeah.
Holy crap.
To know oneself is to know true strength. Oh, excuse me, I didn't see you there. Don't mind the meditations of my mind. For now, we must bid farewell. But fear not. The journey continues at incorrigibleparty.com. There's also a new World Anvil page to explore the world of Senta and all its wonders. These enchanting melodies you've heard come from tabletopaudio.com and Sarastro Music. Please accept my invitation to join our Discord server, and we shall forge bonds as strong as a tall oak, and share tales that echo throughout the halls. Lastly, I humbly beseech you, like, rate, review, and spread the word of our adventures across the realms. Tell a friend, a comrade, or even a foe. And until we meet again, may your dice be blessed with fortune, and your cup filled with ale. Happy adventuring.
This has been a Sounds of Steel production.